The Middle Ground is a Star Wars podcast hosted by Max Opasek and Kevin Isaacs. All the media that is discussed in the podcast is owned by Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Company. The boys' opinions are, well, you guessed it, simply just their opinions. So please tune in, relax, and McClunky.
Actually, wait. Let me look at the description. Clone Wars rage across.
Clone Wars rage across the galaxy. Literally, Sith Lords use the control of the Republic and corrupt Anakin Skywalker to be a dark apprentice Darth Vader. Now an epic lightsaber duel. Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi was confirmed spawn. Jeez.
It really gave away the whole movie. Also, I'm just gonna be like critical of the grammar here. Clone Wars. It makes them like multiple wars. Multiple
rage.
Clone Wars are raging.
If you look at the scene from Order 66. There are a bunch of battles going around the galaxy.
I like how that description makes it seem like the movie starts with the duel. Now in an epic lightsaber duel, Jedi Knight, or not Jedi Knight, Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, I guess if you're no Star Wars, you're probably. I mean, like if someone's just reading the description, I never thought about that, but. All right, I guess that's a good segue to get into our movie. We are going to be talking about, obviously, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
I hate this movie.
I absolutely adore this movie.
No, I don't hate this movie.
No. Did you see this movie in theaters?
Yes, I remember seeing it in theaters, and I can, like, it's one of the only memories from my childhood that I can recall clearly is I don't remember watching the movie. I remember going home after the movie and being like, that was amazing.
I
that
agree.
was amazing.
I remember this is the movie that I guess sort of got me into Star Wars in a sense because, you know, like all the hype and everything around it, everyone talking about it got me interested. Same thing happened with Indiana Jones, like regardless of what you think of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Mm-hmm.
All of that hype for like the new movie and like oh, you got to go see the old ones sort of, you know, brought me into the, I guess, fandom and, you know, I don't know if I would be into Star Wars without Revenge of the Sith. I can definitely take that personal bias aside, though, and like look at the movie, and I really do think it's a great movie, regardless of my childhood surrounding this.
See, I saw all 4, 5, and 6 before I even saw The Phantom Menace in theaters, because my dad was a big fan.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Like, I would watch Lord of the Rings and Star Wars all the time as a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when Episode 3 came out, I was only young enough to be like, that spaceship scene at the very beginning was probably the coolest Star Wars I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
But then everything else, I was like, oh, big battle, awesome music. This is so cool.
I mean, yeah, but you were young then. I mean, that's natural. You're not gonna be picking up on some of like the.
Yeah, but like I liked the movie, but I was like, oh, but I still preferred Episode 2 even when I saw the movie.
Okay.
Like, Episode 2 is my favorite.
Yeah. I remember, I don't think my parents... I definitely saw this movie, like, in one of the last weeks it was showing, because I don't think my parents wanted to take me to a PG-13 movie at the time, because I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 98, so, like...
Oh, yeah. I'm older than you, I forgot.
Yeah, and I mean, there is some, like, PG-13, like, esque stuff. It definitely earns that rating, because up until this one, all the Star Wars movies were PG, and there was... like darker stuff like Anakin, Luke getting his arm cut off and Anakin getting his arm cut off.
There's a lot of murder in this one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like in the other Star Wars movies, it was PG. I could see why, you know, like maybe some of the action and stuff, and the other ones you could make a case for it like not being, or for it being PG-13 or not being PG-13. But this one specifically, I definitely see why it got that rating because of all like the mass murder, child murder, darker themes and stuff, you know. I mean, it's weird to think that, you know, this is the darkest Star Wars movie, but it's also, in my opinion, one of the most fun. Especially this opening with Anakin and Obi-Wan, like the whole Battle of Coruscant and pretty much everything to Order 66.
Let's talk about the opening for a second.
Okay.
It is phenomenal.
It's my favorite opening, not like, just shot, but just the whole thing in general, the whole battle.
Yes, like I said it last review over the second movie, that the Clone Wars really made, like the Clone Wars TV series really made Episode 2 enhanced for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because by itself, after I got older, I got into that, that ooh, it sucks stage.
Yeah. Same.
But then, like, I watched Clone Wars, like, okay, I can appreciate the movie for what it is. And this one, was the same for me. But this part right here, if I could say, like, any part that is like, oh, this is what Clone Wars was all about, it's this entire opening sequence. You have, like, the huge battle going on, which is just, like, you haven't seen anything of this scale before in Star Wars, like, at this point.
Right.
Like, if you're watching it when it came out. And, like, Obi-Wan and Anakin having their, like, stupid little banter, like, it's like, so good.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with it being emblematic of what Clone Wars would eventually become with the large-scale battle and specifically Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship, because this is the height of their friendship. When Obi-Wan or Old Ben is talking, he's talking about, like, your father was a good friend, and he was, like, one of the best star pilots in the galaxy. This is what I'm thinking of more so than anything in Clone Wars. Because this does showcase the man that Anakin was at his height before the downfall. And I think this whole opening scene is very important, showcasing all of Anakin is, because in episode 1 and 2, I think we were talking about this in the last episode specifically, he's a different character than what he is here.
Yes.
And I feel like it's intentional. It's this, people have made the case like, oh, this is George Lucas trying to make up for the fact, or, oh, he just realized that Anakin needed to be this kind of person. But no, I feel that him getting defeated by Dooku at the end of the last movie is very humbling for him, and that's sort of what transforms him into the man he is in the Clone Wars, and more specifically here.
Mm-hmm. Which I was one of those people that had a problem with, like, Anakin being like a child prodigy in episode 1 and then being like a moody prick in episode 2. But it makes sense because, you've brought it up, like, the way he was brought up was not typically like a Jedi would.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knew his mom for a long time before he got taken by the Jedi Order, and he was raised as, like, the chosen one. So in episode 2, I'm like, ugh, Anakin just is like, he seems evil in episode 2.
Yeah.
Like, at the drop of a dime, he can just turn evil. But then, like, in the beginning of episode 3 now, he's like, oh, he's matured, he's grown up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he learned his lesson, like, after episode 2.
Yeah, and he's got more of, like, a fun-loving side to himself, talking about, I know it's a meme, but, this is where the fun begins type deal. Like, he is in his element,
Yeah, yeah.
living it up pretty much.
Like Obi-Wan's, like, they're both so different in such good ways. Like, Obi-Wan's at his best when he's like just being, like, snooty and, like, everything is, like, completely in his control,
Mm-hmm.
right? And, like, Anakin's at his best when he's, like, stunting on people.
Yeah, when it's different elements, because in the scene that we're watching right now, Obi-Wan's flying, and, he said multiple times, this is why I hate flying. He's competent at it, but it's not his element. Anakin right now is in his element. Obi-Wan's element is more or less, negotiation, being a diplomat type deal. And, I just thought about this. You could sort of see when they're on the bridge with Grievous, they're both, even though they have different parts where they're good at, that's where they sort of come together in both of their elements sort of mixed,
Yes.
Obi-Wan's trying to negotiate and sort of ramble on enough for Anakin to pull he pulls the lightsaber, sort of,
Yes.
playing off of each other, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is what they're good at here.
And I like how you brought that up, because I'm going to talk about their relationship more when we're talking about Clone Wars, specifically an episode in Clone Wars where they're all captured with Count Dooku.
Oh,
like, the three of them are all, like, tethered up. That is one of my favorite episodes.
You see, you don't really hear that often. People really hate that arc because I've seen people either say it's too comedic, or they sort of crap on the Jar Jar half of that episode, because it is like a two-parter. How he rescues them.
I could do without Jar Jar, but, like, the clone aspect of that part, I think is interesting. Where they're like, well, we know Jar Jar can just, like, kind of, like, mess everything up, so let's just send him out there.
Yeah.
And, like, he'll make it work. But it's kind of, like, stupid. Like, they really wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
I also like the meta aspect in a way where it's like, I'm sure George Lucas and Dave Filoni, not to just keep talking about the Clone Wars, but George Lucas and Dave Filoni knew sort of like the fan reaction to Jar Jar. Not everyone, especially at the time, was so hot on him, so they sort of made the characters in universe sort of view Jar Jar the way the people do, where it's like, oh god, not Senator Banks again. In fact, one of my favorite parts, I think it's from the season 6 arc with Mace Windu. Mace Windu is not having it being paired up with Jar Jar. He's like, oh god, not this guy again.
Yeah.
It's good. So it's not like they don't know, and that's basically what I have to say about that.
That's the most positive thing I could say about episode 3, back to the movie. Is that there's like almost no Jar Jar in it.
He has like 2 or 3 lines. I think one of them is "excuse me," and "die," like for like walking in his way.
So I clarified how I feel about this movie. I like it. It's right below episode 2 for me.
Still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there is a few annoying things where I'm like, they needed to make ends meet. So like, okay. Like Padme dying.
Like it's a bit too convenient at the end. Like everyone's in their position for the next movie.
Yeah, it's like, possessions, everybody, possessions.
Okay,
and like they were
people have made that complaint before.
Yeah, it's like, okay. But like, they really didn't have much of a choice. Like there wasn't ever gonna be, I'm assuming, like a movie between 3 and 4, or like a series between 3 and 4. It's going to explain like what happened.
Yeah, I mean, plus if you're just watching the movies, you shouldn't need that. You shouldn't need to watch a TV show. A TV show's everything extraneous from the movies should enhance the stuff. It shouldn't explain, That's why I like the Clone Wars so much, is because as much as I like it, I don't really think you need it to get the most out of these movies. It can help highlight the things that are already there, but like, I don't think, as much as I love that show, you can just get by watching the movies.
Yeah, like everything that happened in Clone Wars was completely like completely detached from the main story of happening in 3. Like what happens right before this like isn't even shown in Clone Wars technically. It is like in the original animation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, there's never anything except for the very, very end of the show where they hint at Obi-Wan and Anakin having to go save the Chancellor.
Are you talking about the 2003 Clone Wars?
No, 2003 ties directly into this one, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, they show Anakin and Obi-Wan flying off, and they show Palpatine being captured and everything.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. They have that one Jedi who does a ooh thing and, like, has a shot.
Oh, yeah. The like, does like the sonic screech or whatever, and man, I love that.
Why don't Jedi sonic screech more? Like, people always say the Force riding. Where's the Force screeching?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I think the one that did it had like 4 lungs or something. They said so, and I don't think I've ever seen an Ithorian Jedi other than that one. Not even in the. Oh no, because in the Clone Wars, one of the younglings.
Yeah.
One of my favorite arcs.
Oh.
It's so good. Not to spoil anything for our Clone Wars episode.
I want to keep talking about the Clone Wars episode. I like just watching these movies is making me think about them. So.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna get to that. I hate to say that, but we're gonna get to that.
About what?
More Clone Wars.
Oh, well, I mean, yes, but for right now, we can just keep it locked on Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, but like, what were those species called again?
Ithorians.
Yes,
or Ithorians, or however you say it.
Whenever I play Lego Star Wars as a kid, I would always make. You can make your own Jedi or character. I'd make a Sith one of those.
Oh really?
Yeah, every time. I don't know why. I always choose like. I like Jedis, and like I would never want to be a Sith IRL. Oh. But whenever I'm playing something, I'm like, I want to be a Sith, 100%.
I feel like I would definitely, as much as I would like to be a Jedi, I think I'd definitely, if I had the Force, I'd be a Sith. I wouldn't be a very good one, but I definitely think I'd fall to the dark side. I mean, like having that type of power, I feel like it'd just be way too easy, especially like the world we live in. It'd just be like, all right, I'm gonna do what I think is right. And just sort of lose your way type deal. But
you could be like a Jedi, like Qui-Gon. Like
Qui-Gon.
He did, like you brought up with like Anakin. Like they were like, we don't want you to train Anakin. And he's like, well, I'm gonna fucking do whatever I want.
That's true, but I just feel like without some type of guidance, it'd just be way too easy to be like Anakin and be like, oh, someone that I love is dying. All right, well, I'm gonna do everything in my power to stop that. I guess we could segue into Anakin there a little bit. His journey in the movie. I like it. I like his journey specifically in this movie, but tying everything together, like I've been saying from The Phantom Menace, everything trickling down to Revenge of the Sith. Man, I really love his story.
Yes, I've grown a new appreciation for Anakin being like the center stage of this trilogy.
Everything has been building up to this. So I feel like that's why people like Revenge of the Sith the most, is because it is more hit you on the head with Anakin and sort of his downfall. But if you look at it, everything has been just, I think I just said it, setting the stage for that, him being ripped away from his mother, and, him not having the power to save his mom, during that time. And now it's like, okay, he's going to be faced with a similar situation again with Padme. How's he going to handle it? And as we see, he can't. He's getting those visions again, and he even goes to Master Yoda in one of my favorite scenes, where Yoda basically lays out Anakin's entire character, and what he's struggling with is like, Anakin's like, I'm getting visions of someone, he doesn't say Padme, dying. What can I do to stop it? And Yoda's basically like, you need to learn to cope with loss, and Anakin's never able to do that. He's like, learn to let go of the things that you fear to lose. And Anakin just, he can't, because of his attachment to his mom and how rigid and strict the Jedi are when it comes time to the person he loves the most, death. Unborn child too, it's a twofer right there. Three for if you count Leia or Luke or whoever. It's just, he's never able to cope with that, and Yoda doesn't even give him any advice other than learn to let go. And it's like, okay, well, how can you let go the woman that you love, that you've had this secret relationship with, that is pregnant with your twins, that which he doesn't know, but child? How do you learn to let go of that? And it's like, you can't. And then here comes Palpatine being like, even though he's using the dark side, is like, one, Jedi and Sith aren't all that dissimilar, which we'll get into, but it's like, I have the power to save the one you love. And then when Mace Windu's got the lightsaber to his like throat, it's like, well, how can Anakin say no to that? Even though even though he knows Sith are evil, how do you say no to an answer to the problem of, my wife is about to die and I really don't have any power?
Yeah. And see, like, that's the interesting part. And I don't know, some people would say like it might even ruin it a little bit, where it's like, does his wife die because he turned because he turned into Darth Vader? Like, what if he never turned into Darth Vader? Would she have been alive still, or is it always going to be like that?
I believe that, because if you see the visions Anakin's having, it's of Padme dying, I think specifically on Polis Massa. I think we'll get to there in a minute, but I think that if he had chosen that, she wouldn't have died, because if you look, why did she die? A broken heart.
See, that's
a part I don't like. It's a bit pretentious, but people, again, I feel like it's Darth Jar Jar syndrome, have been like, oh yeah, Palpatine was killing her, and it's like, yeah, I guess, but I don't think that there's anything in this movie to suggest that.
That's like something Rise of Skywalker would say.
Just like, out pulling it out of your ass, basically.
Yeah, like Palpatine was the guy who killed everybody all along. It's like people suggesting that Palpatine was Anakin's father. It's like, no. I don't buy that. I think even Lucasfilm wasn't that
officially,
like an old lore thing, or like,
well, kinda
extended universe?
It's like Palpatine and Plagueis were trying to create life or something like that, manipulating midichlorians. They kind of bring it up in this movie, when he's telling him about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and the Force sort of reacted as like, oh, you're trying to like go against life and create it by yourself. All right, I'm gonna create Anakin as like a counterbalance to whatever they were trying to do. I think that I haven't actually. It's been a long time since I read that book.
That would be pretty cool.
It would. I mean, I think they in a Vader comic, there was like, you could interpret this like vision. It was like Palpatine with his hand over Shmi's womb.
Pregnant belly.
No, not his pregnant belly. Shmi's pregnant belly. And people were like, oh, does that mean that Palpatine was the father? And like one of the lore people over at Lucasfilm was like, if there was any way, shape, or form an implication that Palpatine was Anakin's father, I would have cut that. And it's like, okay, all right, not bad.
So is the assumption that like they willed, because she said that he doesn't have a father, right?
It is supposed to just be like a Jesus miraculous, like random birth without a father type deal, like the Force impregnated Shmi, I guess, if you really want to think about it like that.
Force bomb.
Well, because the prophecy is like someone will be born without a father, and through him, ultimate balance of the Force will be achieved. Which, when we get to Rise of Skywalker, I want to dissect that a bit more.
See, I even hate bringing up Rise of Skywalker now at Episode 3, knowing that's where this series is gonna end. Just makes me sick.
Well,
okay. First of all, spoiler alert: I fucking hate that movie. I think that movie is awful.
I am of the opinion that it's like I like it, but it's not like a glowing recommendation. It's like, yeah, I guess I like it.
No, I just like this movie. Like it's so tragic for me. Like this movie is tragic in a good way. We're like, oh look, here they go. Like, but like they're fighting General Grievous on the bridge right now, and it's like, oh, they're fighting his bodyguards. This is so cool. But it's like, oh, Anakin already killed Count Dooku. Like, the path's already, like, it's already started.
People, I know, I don't want to keep bringing up the Plinkett reviews, but this is the one Plinkett review that I will refute, like, wholeheartedly. Like, I don't think it's that great. And when he's like, for all intents and purposes, Anakin Skywalker is now Darth Vader, I'm like, kinda. I mean, his path had been set for a while there, and this is, like, the first like huge step towards the dark side, you know. The Tusken Raiders was like just starting to get there. Like, that was a horrible thing, but he could still make a turnaround. So but now it's like no going back.
That's another issue that I have with Episode 2 Anakin is like, why can't he be charming but like naive in Episode 2 and then be like charming but like mature in this one? It'd make a little bit more sense, you know.
I guess.
Because he just, like I said, he just seems straight up evil.
You can't connect with him.
Episode 2. It's like, come on, like, you meet Padme, like, be flirty. Don't be like, and I hate to use this word, but don't be with her.
Be more like Poe. Sort of like cocksure a bit.
Yeah, which would make sense because like that's how he kind of was as a kid. But when you're a kid, it's cute. But when you're an adult and like he hasn't like I assume like since he was the chosen one, like he was held like super safe and like wasn't given like a permission to do a lot, so he was like, yeah, I can never get hurt, haha. Then gets his arm cut off by Count Dooku, and it's like, oh, okay, now he's mature, now he's Revenge of the Sith Anakin, which is another thing like that the Clone Wars made it like seeing this Anakin now is like sad, because without Clone Wars, it's you're supposed to be made to like Anakin within these first however many minutes of this opening. Like, oh, Anakin, like he's not evil like he was in Episode 2. He's grown up.
You see, I don't really think he was evil in the last one. Not necessarily. Like, maybe he just
you could tell he was tottering. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, he was talking about wanting more power, and then you can sort of see that when his mom just dies in his arms, and it's like. He almost feels I think he even says like there's things about the Force that they're not telling me in this movie, and it's like, I mean, yeah, I can definitely see why he would come to that conclusion, especially when Palpatine's telling him there are things about the Force they're not telling you specifically. I guess if you want to get into the Jedi Order in this is, I mean, people. I think we talked about this in the Phantom Menace review, but. When Luke and The Last Jedi is like at the height of their power, they allowed Palpatine to, take over. And it's like, well, this really isn't them at the height of their power. This is them at their most corrupt, and they're on their way out at this point, as we'll obviously see. But
spoiler alert. Geez.
Yeah, this isn't like the Jedi at their most like Jedi-esque. Shockingly, but
yeah, isn't that one series that's coming out soon?
The High Republic.
Yeah, isn't that like when they're at their?
I guess I mean, I haven't read it, but you could make an argument, I guess, right now that this is, or that would be.
What's the time period on that?
200 years before the Phantom Menace, which I really feel like it should have been like 2,000 years. Like that's awfully close for them to say like, oh, it's not connected to the Skywalker saga.
Oh, it's not long enough away for you.
I don't know. I mean, 200 years.
Oh, Kevin.
Well, I
you,
mean,
you and your timeline.
No. Well, no, but when you look at like KOTOR and like
yeah, how long is that?
That was 3,000 years. Think about that huge time gap you have to play with.
So the thing is like, how far do you go back until there's like the technology isn't good enough where they like can't hyperspace travel or anything?
They like, I think there's a war called the Great Hyperspace War or something like that, where it's like they first found out. I haven't read anything about that.
That's the thing is I don't know if that's what the problem is, but like I always thought like, cause like you can't really compare this isn't Earth. There's no Earth here. Like this isn't like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So it's already confusing to go back as far as they did, I guess. But
yeah,
200 years. I'm like, I mean, I don't think they're gonna. They may mention the Chosen One in like a prophecy.
Well, not like that. I'm talking more or less in terms of like the Sith and what they're planning, because like they're talking about like this is the greatest enemy the Jedi has ever faced or something like that. I'm like, okay, well the Sith have to be behind it, right? Because during this time, it's only going to be like a couple generations before Plagueis and Palpatine. So like, who are these Sith? Like, what are the Sith doing during this time? But if it was set like 2,000 years beforehand, I'm like, okay, that's reasonable enough to where it's like whatever happened wouldn't be mentioned in the movies, and the Sith could still like not be the villain. I don't know. Again, I haven't read it. I'm still hopeful for it. I got the first couple books pre-ordered, so
yeah.
Anyway, getting back to like the Jedi in this specifically, I feel like this is when their ultimate hubris sort of comes to its conclusion. Everything from the other movies been building up to this, and it comes to its conclusion. One of my favorite bits from the novelization, which, by the way, if any of you have not read the novelization or listened to it on audiobook for Revenge of the Sith, the best Star Wars book, I would say.
Really?
The way it describes Anakin's anger as like this dragon sleeping inside of him, and then it sort of like gets awoken, and how it describes, like, it goes to like these passages of like, this is what it's like to be Anakin Skywalker now, and it's like him bringing the ship down, and then at the very end it describes what it's like to be Anakin Skywalker in the suit. Oh my god, brilliant. It's awesome. But one of my favorite bits is how it describes Yoda and Sidious's fight. I'm not sure, did we talk about this last time, or did I talk about this with John Mando?
With what?
In regards to Yoda fighting Sidious in the book. Did I tell you about that or no?
You didn't tell me.
It's so cool because it's like Yoda coming in there thinking like, yeah. Because like even in the movie, it's like, okay, I'll go take care of Palpatine, you go take care of Anakin. And it's just sort of like a done deal. Like, yeah, we'll go fight him, take care of him. In the book, it's like as Yoda's fighting him, he's slowly realizing that by choosing... I think there's some other Star Wars thing where it's like in choosing to fight the Clone Wars and in choosing to fight Sidious, they had already lost. Like, Yoda went into that fight and he's like slowly realizing like, oh my god, I've lost this fight by one choosing to fight and like starting it, you know?
That's right, because if he tries to kill Sidious, Sidious can just go, look, Yoda tried killing me.
Well, yeah, not even that. Just like he can't win. Like, he cannot win the fight against Sidious, basically, is what it's trying to say. Like, I think it might have been Rebels. And Yoda was telling Ezra, like, in choosing to fight, we had already lost our way, had already lost everything. And it's just sort of cool for Yoda to realize, like, how big-headed he was. And, like...
Oh, yeah, because, like, you want to think Yoda is, like, top tier, like, the best Jedi.
Infallible, basically, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
and then
he can't be corrupted.
And he's like, dang, like, we were in a war. The Jedi were, like, generals in a war.
Mm-hmm. And, like, they shouldn't have been.
They shouldn't at all.
They should have chosen not to, or... however you would, however they would do it.
They should have been rejecting the war.
Mm-hmm. From the very inception, but instead they were, quote-unquote, defending the peace and, just basically answering Palpatine's whim, which, when you think about it, is crazy.
Yeah.
There was another thing I wanted to mention about Anakin and his relationship with Mace. We were saying last time Mace Windu is like the...
Mace Windu is such a prick.
Yeah. I know we have a friend who's Mace Windu's his favorite character, and I think we've talked with him about that. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we would talk about that, and when he said he was his favorite character, I'm like, Mace Windu, like, on the surface is, like, pretty cool. Like, I think he's the battle master of the Order. He's like the strongest like fighter specifically with a lightsaber. In the old canon, he had his own special lightsaber style called Vapid or Vapid or whatever, and he could like really quickly like almost like a blur take down an opponent with just how fast he was like using it. I think he was like drawing on the dark side a little bit. But when you like get down to like his character, he is everything that's wrong with the Jedi Order. Like he is willing to forego his beliefs during this time just to get the job done.
And he like literally tries to kill Palpatine.
Yeah.
Instead of like giving him a fair trial.
In minor spoilers for the Dark Disciple book, it starts out with Mace Windu being like, "Oh, Count Dooku did this thing. All right, well, let's just assassinate him. Let's just hire an assassin." It's like, yikes. I think even Anakin during that scene is like, yikes, dude. Like, come on.
Yeah,
like that's pretty insane. And I don't think it's because he hates Anakin. He just, again, doesn't trust him. He's not willing to trust him because he's an outsider.
Yeah.
And if you, I mean, look what happens when Anakin tells Mace Windu, Palpatine is the Sith Lord. We have to go, not kill him or stop him. It's just, we have to, I am telling you he's a Sith Lord. Let's go take him down. And Mace Windu's like, okay, well, if you want to gain my trust, go sit in the council chambers because I sense conflict in you. It's
no. He says, you've gained my trust.
I think he says if you wait in the council chambers, you will have gained my trust.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And it's like, he told you Palpatine was a Sith Lord. This guy he's really close with. And your response is, okay, well, if you want me to trust you, don't come with. It's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. And then Anakin ended up coming with out of like
desperation for his dying wife.
Yes.
And it's like, it's insane. And I want to sort of segue Mace into Palpatine, but there's a bit of what Palpatine says that's true. And it's what I think all well-written villains are. It's like, they're technically right, but the way they're going about doing the right thing is wrong. You could sort of see that in Thanos, with like him, his intentions are good, but the way he's going about it is really going to, mess up life for everyone. So when Palpatine says, "Oh, the Jedi and the Sith are alike in almost every way," it's like, kinda, you can make a point in an argument to that. And
it's like one, like they're basically two sides of the same coin.
In a sense. And it's like, the Jedi, it's like, Anakin's like, well, the Jedi are selfless. They don't, they don't do, the Sith only look inward. And it's like, oh, and the Jedi don't? It's like, well, yeah. I mean, if you look at these Jedi, it's like they sort of are looking inward at themselves. But the epitome of the point I'm trying to make is, when Anakin's got Dooku, lightsabers across his throat, or is it after Palpatine says it?
Says what? He
says, Anakin's like, I shouldn't, and oh my god, hang on, we might have to cut this. I'm trying to think of the exact line, and I'm hyped up on coffee right now. What does he say? He says something that Mace Windu says. Oh, he's got so Anakin has the lightsabers across his throat, and he's like, he kills him, and he's like, I shouldn't have done that. And Palpatine's like, oh, he was too dangerous to be left alive. And then, cut to many scenes later, Palpatine is the one who's the unarmed prisoner, and Mace has the lightsaber to him, and he's like, no, he must stand trial. And then Mace Windu's like, he's too dangerous to be kept alive. It's like, that's the moment I think Anakin realizes that Palpatine was a Sith, said that, Mace Windu was a Jedi, said pretty much the same thing, and that's the moment he realizes that, Palpatine, in a sense, was right again, but what they did.
Anakin was definitely corrupted, but he was like, oh, like, he's right, and then he helps Palpatine kill Mace Windu. He's like, oh,
yeah,
and what have I done?
Yeah, it's like, because then he realizes, like, oh my god, I killed him. And that's a part of the Clone Wars that I think really enhances this movie is, people are like, oh, Anakin's turn was too quick. And I'll always make the argument that, again, slow trickle from the Phantom Menace to this. It's not just like a sudden, like, snap, oh my god, he turned to the dark side.
You could tell from the moment they took him from his mom in episode 1, like, he was like, I don't want to go. And it's like, yeah, probably not.
Yeah. What was I trying to say with that? What was I just saying?
Slow trickle. from episode 1.
To the dark side. Oh, I know. I lost my train of thought. It was something about the dark side in Anakin.
Quick transition.
Oh. But the main thing that gets, at least for me, that gets enhanced is why Anakin would wipe out all the Jedi. Because in the Clone Wars, they really highlight how sort of corrupt the Jedi are with Ahsoka. I mean, look at that. There was really barely any proof, and they were like, okay, well, we're going to strip you from our title so that way the Senate can handle your trial, and it's not looking at like it's like a Jedi thing and we're trying to save you. It's like, yikes.
Yeah.
And it's like, she almost gets killed. They almost like try her and execute her. If it wasn't for Anakin, she would be dead.
Yes.
And you could sort of see why he would kill a youngling, because they are sort of the next generation of evil. If they die, if they kept alive, Palpatine even says it'll be a civil war without end. Even if the younglings survive, they're going to grow up to be Jedi and fight them,
Yeah, and to Anakin, I think even having like the backing of like all the clones, like he's like, oh, my cause is just. Even the clones are on my side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if Captain Rex was there, I'm sure he'd be still doing the same thing.
Oh,
like,
I know.
Which we know Captain Rex and Ahsoka aren't, or where they are. Technically
Yes.
during this, they're fighting Darth Maul, which is
bizarre
to think. Watching this movie from 2005 and this 2020 storyline is overlapping with it.
I know.
15 years later. But anyway.
But I do like how Anakin, like, you can kind of see, like, how you just explained it. You can kind of see from his point of view, like, even though he is corrupt, he'd be like, he's just evil. He's evil now. He's murdering kids. It's like, oh, but to him, he's doing, like, what he thinks is the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, so when he tries to tell Padme, like, I can even overthrow Palpatine, which probably could.
Yeah.
It's
had
like,
he not,
gotten
burnt. Burnt alive.
Cut in half, burnt alive. He has no regular limbs anymore.
Oh god, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Which that sucks. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, sort of punishment, just punishment for murdering 10,000 people. Like, maybe not even personally, but it's like, there's even those scenes of him crying. So it's like he realized that almost like the Jedi needed to be reformed, not completely wiped out. That's the method you see. But Palpatine's a Sith, that he would try and wipe them out, and that's sort of where Anakin's downfall is. But again, I feel like he keeps bringing himself to say, like, I'm doing it for Padme, almost like a Walter White type thing, where it's like, I'm doing it for my family, but then by the end he's like, I did it for myself. It's like he keeps holding on to Padme, and by the end, when he's like telling Padme, it's like, like you were saying, like, I can overthrow the Chancellor. I have new powers that no one else could be privy to. And then she's like, Obi-Wan can help. He's like, I don't want to hear any more about Obi-Wan. And then he sees Obi-Wan. It's like, that's the final thing I feel like that fully makes him Darth Vader, is like, oh my god, even the person I did all of this stuff for has betrayed me with Obi-Wan. And then he starts choking her.
Oh.
And then it's like, there's no going, that would be the ultimate no going back. Padme could have been the one thing that fully brought him back. And then, it takes Luke to actually save him.
Yeah, which I used to think back, when Anakin would choke Padme, that was what actually killed her. Like the lack of oxygen
as a kid,
would have killed her, and then childbirth finally is what did it. But I still think it's a bullshit death.
Yeah, getting back to that, I think it's a little bit pretentious, and that's as pretentious as the George Lucas movies get.
While we're on the topic of Anakin, let's talk about the final fight. Why not?
Okay.
Why not? Between him and Obi-Wan.
Talk about the action in general, yeah.
Yes, so I think, the action's pretty good. Like, what is there? Like, really one fight at the beginning.
Theirs says the most lightsaber duels of any movie. I think it's like, again, this was the last Star Wars movie. Big blowout, huge action set piece at the beginning. Massive Wookiee battle. We're going to show all these huge things. This was the last time George Lucas would be able to do that.
Yes.
Height of the Clone War, height of the action. I think, let's see, there's the Anakin Dooku Obi-Wan fight.
Yeah.
There's the fight with Grievous in Obi-Wan lightsaber. Mace Windu versus Sidious. Anakin and Obi-Wan, and Anakin, and Yoda and Sidious.
Yeah.
So that's 5 different fights in one movie compared to like A New Hope had 1, Empire and Jedi had 1, Phantom Menace had like 2 at the most. I think Attack of the Clones had 1 too. I can't think of any other Star Wars movie that has more fights than this. I think this is the...
Yeah, I think so.
Even the sequels. Last Jedi had no lightsaber fight.
Did it not? No, it had Luke and...
But would you even
Kylo
consider that a fight?
Yeah.
They didn't even hit swords. They were just sort of like flying around. And Force Awakens had 1. Rise of Skywalker had none? No, it had the 1. It had the 1 between Kylo and... Oh, no, it had 2. It had 2. Okay, so...
I don't even know what happened in the Rise of Skywalker. Right
We'll
now.
get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We're only 6 movies away.
Yeah, and a couple TV shows. But, I'd say the action is all really good. The only fight I really don't like is Grievous and Obi-Wan, and even then it's just because it's so short. There's not much. Obi-Wan just sort of bests him.
I don't really like the Anakin. I like the Anakin and Obi-Wan fight at first, but
it's a good fight.
It's a good fight for the first like 15 minutes, and then like the rest hour and a half.
Yeah,
is it's comedic. You know when
yeah.
when they start walking along like that tightrope like beam, and it's like, whoa, we're falling, ooh, but we're still smacking lightsabers, and then they jump off and the thing falls over in the lava river, and they're skating down the river on a little what is it, that walkway, and then they're swinging by on ropes and hitting each other like Tarzan with lightsabers.
I guess
by the time it comes to an end, it goes, "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground." It's like you were just like doing like monkey flips all over the place. What is the high ground gonna do?
I mean,
and then it manages to help, and he cuts him in half. It's like, okay.
You had brought up that point before, but honestly, after watching it the last time, it didn't really bother me as much as I thought it would. I agree, it's long, but I don't think it's super long. Maybe just more or less the things they're doing, like swinging around and everything. It just, I don't know, it doesn't really bother me. But I think the action is all good. I love the fight between Anakin, Dooku, and Obi-Wan. Again, I think the Grievous fight is all right. I like the Palpatine and Mace Windu fight, though I am of the opinion that Mace Windu... Palpatine let Mace win, but you said you weren't of that opinion. The only reason I say that is not because Palpatine's my second favorite character and I don't like Mace Windu, but it's because if it was she was on the other foot and Palpatine was standing over Mace Windu, or like his dead body and all these dead Jedi were in the room...
Yeah.
And then Anakin walked in and he'd been like, "Oh, they tried to attack me." It's like, yeah, okay, buddy. You just killed Mace Windu. But it's like, and then look at what happens when Palpatine's there. He's like, "Oh, I told you, Anakin, the Jedi are trying to take over." And he's like, "Oh, don't kill me, I'm weak." It's like, would Anakin really have, like, that's the final push. If it was the other way around,
yeah,
Anakin wouldn't have been like, "All right, well, Mace Windu's dead, I'll join you." He would have been like, "What are you doing?"
So,
just killed Mace Windu and Kid Fisto.
I think we might be giving old Georgie a little too much credit there. I
don't give him enough credit.
I think they did. I think they did it like that because they had to. I don't think it was like an intentional Palpatine's like, "Ooh, I have to look like I'm losing." It's
you see, I do, because he was acting the entire time he knew Anakin. Think about it. He was never, if he was Sith Lord Palpatine to Anakin the whole time, he'd be like, "Okay, why would creepy old grandpa get away from me?" But he was kindly, friendly Chancellor Palpatine. And there's that scene where he reveals it to him, and he sort of merges into, he merges both personas into one. To sort of, tied over Anakin, where it's like he's like, when Anakin's like, "I'm gonna turn you over to the Jedi," he's like, "As you should, and learn to know the dark side, the power to save Padme." And he gives him like a smile. It's like, "You turn me over, it's fine, I just want to help you." It's like he's manipulating him to the end. And I don't know, I think it is intentional. That's just me. Maybe you're interpreting it differently, but I think it's completely intentional. Last thing I want to say on Anakin, though, I love, and maybe we'll talk about this more when we get to Return of the Jedi, I love the whole thing about him being a slave. First of all, he's like a physical slave to Watto.
Yeah.
Then he's a slave to the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
And then to the Sith. And it's only after, in his final moments of life, that he decides not to be a slave anymore, and he throws Palpatine over the edge, and then Palpatine transfers his consciousness to Exegol, and he waits 30 years to start the First Order and the Final Order. Isn't that great?
Hey, we're jumping ahead a couple of movies there.
No, but I just like that element.
Anakin is the most tragic character because he's been manipulated his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
From the day he was born, like he was been like almost like a slave to the Force.
Yeah,
like he
in
was
a
really
sense.
he was really just a tool. I feel like
Yeah.
like he never had his like every choice that he's made has been almost not his own. You could say.
You could
except
make
for
an
the
argument.
except for the final moment. But that's like his final moments in life.
Well, I don't think the Force wanted Darth Vader to be a thing, you know?
Probably not.
That's what I said like when I think we talked about that when we said when Qui-Gon died. I feel like everything was going the way the Force wanted, and then Darth Maul killed Qui-Gon, because I think if Qui-Gon was around, none of this would be happening, you know?
Put these beers in the fridge.
Oh.
Sorry, I got beer.
Okay. But like I don't think any of that would be happening. Do you want to can I talk about Palpatine for a little bit?
Oh, I guess.
Dude, this
Get
is
your-
Palpatine's movie. This is why I think I love Palpatine so much. It's him at his peak, his most manipulative, his most Sith Lord like, and there's a bit of like cheesiness to Palpatine that just gets brilliantly highlighted here, because he's like in Return of the Jedi, he's a little bit cheesy, not as much, but here he's like hamming it up. He like shocks Yoda across the room, and he's like lifting his hands up and like a weird like.
Yeah, you can really tell.
Lost the Jedi and no more. It's like, oh my god, he loves it. He's been waiting for this moment for 30 years, and he's gonna live it up.
I really like how he was directed to be like super overplaying it, because even the part where he's fighting Mace Windu and he's shocking and goes, unlimited power.
Oh,
it's like, geez.
That's what I mean. It's like fun to watch. It's like it's horrifying, but it's also like super. I also love the contrast where he's like, oh, unlimited power, and then Anakin's like, I'll do whatever you ask, and he's like, good, the Force is strong with you.
Yeah, he turns
like, God,
he ages like 40 years.
Yeah. Also, another thing. What does he say when he's talking to the Senate? He's like, this attempt on my life has left me scarred. And it's like, if Mace Windu hadn't have won, and he wasn't shocking the lightning at his face, how would that have looked to everyone else? But like, there's physical proof on his face that the Jedi attempted to kill him.
He probably, what would they say if he
like if
didn't?
Mace Windu, if like Mace hadn't have like quote unquote won, you know, if he hadn't have let Mace win and he hadn't disfigured himself in order for, you know.
He probably could have silver snake tongued his way to been like.
I guess, yeah, but
I mean, he's been doing it all this time. He could be like, oh, or maybe he would like kill his secretary or something and be like, I mean, would you put it past him?
Oh no,
he'd be like,
Masamita,
ironic.
Secretary Extraordinaire.
who?
The blue guy.
Masa who?
Masamita. You'll find out more about him
Masamita?
in the stuff, in the extraneous stuff. He's in a couple things. He's got like an important part after the Empire falls.
Yeah, he just looks like some cool dude with a staff.
I mean, that's what he is in the movies. It's like, that's all he's supposed to be. Also, if you want to get into like the look of this movie and everything, aesthetically, I think this is the best looking Star Wars movie, just because we always talk about with the prequels, the creatures and the planets. This is the best one. Got the most variety, even during the Order 66 scene, which we will touch on. Like, just the variety of planets and locations. It's like Felucia.
Oh, yeah.
Felucia was built for 1, 2, 3 shots, basically.
Yep.
A whole entire world civilization.
Oh,
Incredible stuff. Kashyyyk. It's cool to see the Wookiee homeworld.
yeah, and like they don't linger on the fact that it's the Wookiee homeworld. Like that's basically Chewie. That is Chewie in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like, oh, okay, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's like Chewbacca's there. It's fine. It's not like, oh, Chewbacca,
It's
my
like-
favorite Wookiee.
oh, my name's Solo, Han Solo.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, I think it's cool, too. Again, this being the last Star Wars movie at the time and, like, getting all the ideas out. I think originally, instead of Ewoks, it was supposed to be Wookiees, and it was going to be a Wookiee homeworld in Return of the Jedi. And, like, they didn't use that idea, but it's like, okay, we'll bring that idea back here. Oh, Yoda will go to the Wookiee, because now they have the technology and everything to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. Felucia's cool. Saleucamai's cool. Utapau, Sinkhole Planet, awesome. Coruscant, again, you get to see the upper atmosphere of the planet and everything. That's pretty cool. Mustafar, oh my God, Mustafar is incredible.
Yeah.
This hellscape lava planet. My God, this movie is visually just incredible.
Yeah.
It gets enhanced by the story because they're fighting the Clone Wars on all these planets. And, like, look at those droid tanks. The, oh God.
They look like snails.
What are they called? Those aren't even in the Clone Wars show, I don't think. Maybe the last season. What are those called?
I have no idea.
I cannot think of it. Or like the dwarf spider droid or the droid gunships. Or like the juggernauts and the ATPs or APs. Something. Incredible.
The Tarzan Wookiees.
Tarzan Wookiees. Well, hey, that's a callback to Return of the Jedi.
Is it?
It is. Chewbacca does the same thing when he's swinging onto an AT-ST. So blame that movie, hey? I don't know. I just really like... And again, Ewan McGregor in this movie. This is why I love Obi-Wan. I love him as a kid. He's just incredible in this. And I feel really bad for him in this movie, too. Yeah. And again, he sort of realizes, along with Yoda, like, we lost our way. And now, at the end of the movie, it's like, okay, well, now we lost... But we got to bring ourselves back up, and now it's almost like punishment. We have to wait until these kids grow up and can, we can install our wisdom and fight the fight for us.
They have to watch the universe and the galaxy go to shit in the meantime.
That's why I'm excited for the Obi-Wan show. I hope they touch on that. It's his exile onto Tatooine is sort of like a punishment.
Yeah.
Yoda, like you brought up the point, is like, how sad is it that Yoda self-exiles himself? He's saying, like, into exile I must go. He's doing it to himself.
And he does go to, like, a super force awesome planet.
Well, it's full of the dark side, though.
Yeah, but it's also a shit swamp that he lives in and eats mud cake for dinner. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's
like,
it's
he probably
sad.
has to eat, like, little bugs and stuff like actual Baby Yoda does in Mandalorian.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. Well, he eats that, like, weird stew in Return of the Jedi with Luke, the poop stew or whatever it was.
Yoda's poop stew. Ugh.
I mean,
it's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Talking about Order 66, it scared me as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, specifically the parts when you watch all the Jedi dying.
So
now,
Order 66.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean you can go. I mean, like the shots of, like, when they go to Felucia and you see them like laying into, what is it, Ayla Secura.
Oh yeah, and then, like, the flowers sort of, the camera pans up and like the flowers covering her
like,
body.
Oh my God! I was like so shocked watching that.
Yeah. No, I think that's an incredible scene.
Yeah, it's an incredible scene, and like I think it really hits like the mark of like how, like, oh, this is bad. Like, everyone's dying. But I don't think they really capture how many Jedi there actually are either. I don't think they ever do that in the series.
I mean, they say at a couple points there's like 10,000 Jedi in the galaxy, so I don't know how.
Which is like, how can all of them be dead? Is like.
Well, I mean, you got to think about how. I mean, they showed the scale of the Clone Wars, and, like, I guess that's another thing the show enhances. But you get the impression that, like, the whole galaxy is at war. You know, and how big the Republic is and all that. And I guess other than just extending the scene, because it was supposed to be longer.
Oh, man.
And I mean, there was also those shots at the temple, too.
Can you imagine that they had 10,000 shots of Jedi just dying?
Well, I mean, not all 10,000 of them died.
No, for like 7 hours.
3 survived. Oh, God. 7 hours.
Just different ways they murdered these Jedi. Which I never, ever understood what Order 66 was. Like,
before the
years,
Clone Wars show?
Yeah,
what do you mean?
For years, like, execute Order 66. I'm like, are the clones... I always thought the clones were just bad guys all the time.
Oh, I see. I mean, you could kind of make that impression if you put 2 and 2 together and show that Sidious or Dooku was in charge of the one ordering the clones. You know.
See,
So I don't blame you for that.
I barely even made that connection. I was like, oh, Sidious is the main bad guy. But they're gonna listen to the Chancellor, like, over the Jedi. Like, I just got confused, I guess.
I guess that's another thing the Clone Wars enhances with the whole chip thing.
Definitely did. Like, that. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
It felt like they were scrambling a little bit to get that answer out there, but it's like, okay, I'll take it.
I guess.
It's like, oh, we're putting away Jango Fett's crazy anger with this chip.
Oh,
Glances
yeah,
around,
impulsive, yeah.
sweats, bites.
Yeah.
It's like okay, that's kind of BS. I don't think they'd ever fall for that, but whatever.
Yeah, I could see that.
Also, I like the Utapounds.
Yeah, no, the creatures and everything, the different cultures, it's all really cool. And again, you don't get like a ton of it, like the Viractyl Boga that Obi-Wan rides. That's a really cool. That should be the censor sound.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
The other one specifically when it's falling to its death when Obi-Wan gets shot by.
Oh God. That's horribly sad.
Look at those sound waves.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for when we can play the original Battlefront 2 on stream because of all these maps. Like,
oh yeah.
I actually want to do like a galactic conquest. Like I don't know how you feel about that, but like we need to do one. Like I wanted to do one. Like
I thought you meant like against each other. I'm like,
no.
Do that?
Like
I want to do
I don't
all
know,
of them.
have like a whole stream where like you do one and I'll do one.
Yeah,
but like
that'd be awesome.
All these maps, like I think about like the map from Battlefront 2 when I played them with like my brothers growing up, and I'm like, oh, Utapau, like where you're down that giant ramp, like the command post on the giant ramp, and you have like the tanks and stuff. So fun. I loved every single map in that game.
You know, I also, this was just a thought I had because everyone, back when, you know, the people that hated The Last Jedi hated it with like an unburning passion, and the people that loved it would just defend it in any way they could.
Yeah.
They had brought up the fact that, oh, it's a film about failure, and that's really powerful. And I thought, yeah, that's a good message and everything, but I think Revenge of the Sith, you could also make the argument that this film is about failure and failings, like the failing of the Jedi Order as a whole, Anakin's failure to, you know, stay true to himself and to not fall to the dark side, Mace Windu's failing, Obi-Wan's failing as a mentor to Anakin, and how, you know, he needed to be less of a friend and more of a brother or a father.
Teacher or father that he needed.
Yeah. There's even a line in the Revenge of the Sith video game where Obi-Wan, when they're fighting, he's like, I wasn't prepared to train someone like you. And it's like, yeah, he was just thrust upon him.
Yeah.
And you know.
I think you brought it up when we were rewatching this together. It was like, when he goes, I love you, Anakin. You're like a brother to me, Anakin. I loved you. It's like, well, you should have had more of a parental love, like when Anakin like messed up. Yeah.
Not a love, but
he's like a father to me.
Yeah, I think that it was something Dave Filoni had said that I was quoting. You know, I guess
who's Dave Filoni?
The guy who made Clone Wars and Rebels and Mandalorian. What's Rebels?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know, hang on. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Because I wanted to end it maybe with talking about Grievous just for Alex. Because
I was just gonna say, I like General Grievous. Especially that he's got 4 arms. I think that is awesome, and that's all I gotta say. I
absolutely just to. Oh, we could end it with talking about the crawl, but I wanna. Yeah, Grievous. I absolutely have a drawing of him that I made as a kid. I love General Grievous. But again, I'm not. It's a heavy bias because he's not. Aside from the 2003 Clone Wars show, he's not really cool. He's cool in design and like, he's a Jedi killer, but he really killed like a Padawan and maybe some clone troopers. You know, he's not as menacing as he could be.
I wanna talk about Clone Wars next. I'll say it here. And I want to talk. I'm probably not going to talk about this episode in the video only because I don't like this episode. But it's where General Grievous gets beaten by Gungans.
You know, back when I was an angsty teen, I was like, oh, the old Clone Wars is way better than the new Clone Wars. In the new one, General Grievous gets defeated by Gungans. And it's like,
well,
it's the one thing I will...
You're not wrong.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't... that is pretty stupid.
General Grievous is cool. Like, you only really get a hint of him, really, in this movie. And then when you had, like, the old... when did that animation come out?
2003.
2003. Like, he's, like, so cool. Like, he's so cool, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially with the animation style. He's just, like, flinging around. I think in his debut, he kills 3 Jedi Masters.
Yes, which is amazing.
Yeah, and, like, wounds the other ones. It's like, oh, my God.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like... So, that was something I wanted to bring up at the very end here. In the opening crawl. You wanted to bring up the opening crawl.
Oh, yeah.
I did as well. I feel like if they just would have shown... in like the 2003 animation, if they just would have shown the beginning, if they would have shown the Battle of Coruscant from the beginning, like, I think it would have given like a little bit more depth to this. Like maybe like 15 minutes of like General Grievous, like maybe pan up to like Chancellor's office, and then he busts out the window with the Chancellor.
Something quick, it would have to be.
Yeah, like
you don't want to kill the
like
pacing.
right when he captures the Chancellor, when he gets off the planet, then have like you see like we need reinforcements. Look, here comes General Kenobi and Skywalker.
Yeah, you know what? You know what? There's like a shot, or he like fights Mace Windu before he captures Palpatine. You could just like retcon that, have like 3 or 4 Jedi, like try and, instead of Mace Windu, like try and get him as he's boarding the shuttle, and he kills like 3 of them and like wounds the last one. And as the shuttle's going up, he's like you said, it's like, we need reinforcements, and then it's like, Generals Kenobi and Skywalker just dropped out of hyperspace.
Goes,
we got him. Yeah, or something like that.
Oh.
Something like that. But yeah, this is, just to be brief, this is my favorite opening crawl, I think. Even though the beginning is like kind of cheesy, where it's like, war, the Republic is crumbling under attack. It sounds like a Clone Wars intro. Yeah. But it's like there are heroes on both sides. Evil is everywhere. It's like, I think when he's talking about Palpatine pretty much. And I also feel like he's trying to condense the 3 years of Clone Wars into just a couple sentences.
Yeah, which I think a little bit more context would have helped that.
Yeah,
like,
but the rest of it, though, awesome.
Yes, awesome.